Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. Over the past 7 years, we've understood what matters the most to you, the entrepreneur. And in year 8, we're taking head-on 2 of your most pressing concerns, that of funding and mentoring. I'm Sananda Jayaseelan. Tonight on the show, we're putting the focus as far as the use of technology is concerned in mobility. The way India commutes is changing, with more focus now coming on future technologies like AI, IoT, etc. in this very exciting panel. I caught up with experts in the space, including Droom, Facebook, Bain, as well as entrepreneurs, to understand what are the specific opportunities for entrepreneurs when it comes to use of technology in the mobility space, to understand whether Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets are keeping pace with what's happening in urban India, as well as what some of the biggest challenges are right now. Take a listen. Exciting to have each of you here on the show today with us.
Thank you.
Talking about how consumers are researching online, buying online, selling online, and also, looking at post purchases, and how the market really is changing when we're talking tech and digital for the auto space. And each of you is representing really one aspect of this industry. So exciting to have each of you on the show tonight. But on the Leaders of Tomorrow, as always, we kick the show off by talking to our entrepreneurs about what it is each of you do. Droom, of course, needs no introduction, not much of an introduction, but let's ask you, Sandeep, if you can very briefly talk to us about what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I run Droom, which is India's largest marketplace to buy and sell new and used vehicles online. Mm-hmm. And I started this company in April 2014, so we just completed 5 years. We basically provide India, unlike US, Western Europe and Japan, is a low trust market. Mm-hmm. And we are dealing in used vehicles, primarily in used vehicles, where information asymmetry and moral hazard is very high. So we provide essentially tools, technology, services and data science so that we can increase the trust, remove the information asymmetry, and make the transparency higher so that the transaction for a non-standard item can take place. Mm-hmm. So we provide certification services for pricing, inspection and history. We provide a buyer and seller transaction technology and tools, and we also provide loan and insurance.
Okay. So you've essentially proven that the model, as far as anything to do with the auto industry online, is definitely a proven model, and that has had much success in India. Talk to us about Crulo, the startup.
We are an electric vehicle startup, and we started in 2017. Right now we are working on a high range electric LCV for the Indian market, and it will feature some smart features like cloud connectivity, very high range, a modular and expandable battery pack, and it will be supported by a mobile infrastructure which will charge it, basically another van which will go and charge it in case you are stuck at an emergency situation where you need more charge in your battery pack. So currently we are in the prototype phase right now, but we hope to launch it within the next couple of years.
Okay, so you're saying mobile, we've been talking about technology and digital, and that really is my next question. This is open to all of you on the panel, but Prasenjit and Deepak, maybe I can come to the two of you first and talk about how Indians are increasingly now depending on technology, depending on social and digital to do their research, to make their purchases online. How is the market really changing, and how are consumers and how are then companies changing? Very briefly, let's get opening comments from the two.
Sure. I think we're seeing a marked change in the way people are behaving, and over the last 2 years with the telecom revolution that's happened and data prices going only southwards, I think connectivity has become something that's across the country. So in the auto space, we're seeing far more research happening online in the pre-purchase stage. Almost 70% to 80% people are now researching online before they buy. But I think the other interesting part is the post-purchase piece, where people are very open to look at that as an option also online. So that's a bit of an opening comment on how we're looking at seeing this change. And people like Droom and other partners that we work with are only harnessing this very well.
Okay, was it so crucial for you at Facebook to have, a vertical really where you're really looking at this market to say that this is definitely going to boom?
Certainly, because the automobile sector has always been the bellwether, the big one behind for any country. Yeah. And I think the fact that the sector is now moving ahead and harnessing digital so well is something we are partnering with them. They were a little slow to start initially, but now we're seeing, and there's some automobile OEMs who are spending up to 30% of their money on digital, which is very encouraging. And we are very proud to partner with them over the last 3 years building this together.
Fantastic.
I would agree with all the comments. So there is a lot of impact happening in the automobile sector through digital, and that is not restricted just to the front part of the value chain that is consumer oriented, but almost every bit of value chain is getting impacted in a big way by digital. So consumer, of course, is at the forefront. As Prasenjit already said, almost 70% of the research is happening online even before a consumer is visiting the dealer shop, and 50% of the decisions related to the brand and model of the vehicle is already made. So the role of dealer is going down and consumer is becoming more and more aware. But at the same time, if you look at it from OEM's perspective, the whole profit pool is changing because of so many disruptions happening across the value chain.
Okay, how are Indians perhaps different when it comes to our global peers, when it comes to using technology in the auto space? Most industries that have anything to do with digital tell us that it's much easier in India, given that we have such a young population, to bring technology and digital into any industry in India. How perhaps is it working out in the auto space? How are we different or similar maybe to our neighboring countries? This is open to all of you.
So I think, see, as you said, I think India has a median age of 26, almost 1 billion mobile phones, and also some of the world's best technologists came from this country. So adoption of technology actually obviously comes to us naturally.
Sure.
And given that earlier income level was a hurdle, you could not buy a laptop which was 40,000 rupees or a desktop or something which was more expensive. Now you can have a 3,000 rupees Android phone with a very cheap, and the recent study says that the data plan in India is the lowest for any country in the world. So connecting, so adoption of technology is very, very easy. So, but when it comes to automobile, only thing I would remind is while e-commerce, for example, is a 26-year-old industry, but until 5-7 years back, it was almost hard to assume Indians buying anything other than, let's say, Chetan Bhagat's best-selling book, because of not because of the technology, but because of the trust. Okay. India is a low trust market. So yeah, but now, if you think about 7 or 8 are very large human decisions in human life. For example, finding a life partner, looking for a home loan, changing a job, and buying a vehicle. These kind of things all are enabled by internet. So technology adoption was never a hurdle, but now given that your life most important decisions are also coming online, so that adoption is actually accelerating. Okay, so the touch and feel perhaps is not as crucial now. I think touch and feel is overrated now.
Okay, sure.
Yes, so the way we are seeing, like as I was mentioning earlier, even right from the purchase to the post-purchase piece, even there we are seeing a huge impetus, right? So earlier 8% or 14% were open to buying accessories online or booking services online. We did this recent survey with Bain, and over 45% people said that they're open to booking services online, purchasing accessories online. So even if it starts with a low touch, like buying a vehicle online maybe is a little time away, buying the full vehicle online, but at least people have started now with the post-purchase, the pre-purchase, the research. So all that is happening very strongly.
And how are we
online.
different perhaps? Let's look at China maybe. How are we different?
So I think, just to echo Sanjeev's point, I think just the fact that the demographics are younger in this place, and the adoption moved in very, very fast. I mean, 5 cents a gigabyte is what our data costs are, which is the cheapest across the world.
Sure.
And with the scale we have and mobile phones only becoming more ubiquitous, even at Facebook, and this is across, so there's this Bharat and India piece that we all keep talking about. So at Facebook, we are seeing this tier 2 and tier 3 growing as fast, and they have equal access to data now, which puts them at par with anybody else. So which gives an opportunity for everyone to live the same life that they wanted to. So I just think that entire move is where the difference between these two countries will be, and therefore the demand's far stronger in this parameter.
Time for a quick break here on the show, but we will continue bringing you highlights of that panel discussion on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow tonight, bringing you highlights of a panel discussion on the future of mobility in India. What are the opportunities for you, the entrepreneur? Just before we slipped into the break, we were talking about pricing and how pricing perhaps is very different in the digital age. Is there anything any of you maybe want to respond to that?
Yeah, so whereas I understand where Harsh is coming from, but I think now the dealers are very aware of the fact that they have to scale beyond their 2,000 square feet space that they always had. And I think online has now given them that scale. See, because India has always been about ambition. And I just think the way online and ambition match together in this country is beautiful, and the internet enables it. So we just tied up with a large OEM and partnered with all the dealers across the country to enable them to directly advertise on Facebook and actually generate leads for their new cars. And the appetite's only growing. They're very keen to learn about this. We've also created models for tier 2 and tier 3 towns, because you asked that question earlier. So the dealers are very aware, and this is across. It's not only an urban phenomenon, only not a top metro phenomenon yet. It's all over the place. So I think we're seeing that happen more and more. And so I would actually, in a way, beg to disagree from that perspective and actually add on to that, saying I think the dealer community is even more open to this now, and we only see this aggressively growing. And that's where I think companies like Droom, etc., who are now doing these solutions, especially for dealers also, will only benefit.
Okay, I want to flip this around from talking about a consumer perspective to talking about what entrepreneurs should be doing. And the first thing is, as far as investments are concerned, where are businesses like yourselves investing when it comes to the digital space as far as auto is concerned? What perhaps are the trends we should be looking at? I do know VR, for instance, and we were talking about this earlier, perhaps is going to become the next big thing when it comes to the auto industry as well. Very quickly, one or two things that you would want for our entrepreneurs to know.
Yeah, so that's a great question. If you think about it, from the time Henry Ford invented assembly lines, cars have become really advanced. Dubai this year will be launching a flying taxi. We are talking about driverless car. We are talking about connected cars with IoT, right? But the buying and selling experience in a 21st century remains the 19th century experience. And that's where technology plays a role, honestly, and that's where we are betting all our bets. So we have invested very heavily on data science and artificial intelligence. For example, when you are buying a 1 liter diesel, you know the price. When you are buying a stock of Facebook or ACC, you know the price. But what about when you are buying Maruti Suzuki Swift Desire 2016 white color 70,000 kilometer? You don't know the price.
Except for you, perhaps.
See, that is also like, if I tell you that is probably pulling the number from the hat.
Sure.
That's no technology. But we now have a technology. We have an artificial intelligence engine which works on hundreds of different algorithms, consider a lot of parameters in mind, and can give you a fair market value of a used vehicle under 10 seconds. So that is one area of investment. Second is, when you're buying a used vehicle, the biggest thing is, how do I know the exact condition of the vehicle? Because when you're buying something new, you know the condition. And when you're buying something, where you're buying a laptop, it does not work out, it's fine. But when you're buying a car, you can end up actually losing your shirt, because it may cause you 10,000-15,000 rupees damage every month. So in that case, we have built something called inspection service, which is completely mobile and IoT driven. So each car has a standardized port, so you can put that, and it can give us 1,000 different checkpoints about the health of that vehicle. Sure. So car has a lot of computer and sensors, so we can fetch that. Similarly, if you are buying a used vehicle, you want to know whether it has a disputed title, water damage, theft history, or how many owners it has changed hands. So we have built India's largest database where vehicle history is stored and accessible to the consumer.
Sure. Deepak, you have an eye as far as the big picture is concerned in terms of trends. So for 2019, if you want to talk to our viewers about where perhaps investment should go if companies are looking at that.
See, the way I look at it, and as I was saying earlier, companies will have to invest across the value chain. Most of the discussion we have had so far was from the consumer perspective. People are actually investing in terms of just attracting the consumers by digital marketing through platforms like Facebook and others. They are investing in terms of engaging with the customers, because it is critical to get the consumer on your platform, but it is also critical to engage with the consumer through the customer journey that a consumer goes through.
Sure.
And if you think of it in terms of a car buyer, the journey starts when the consumer makes that decision to buy the car, but also once he retains the cars and uses it, there are so many other points at which he needs an engagement with the company, or the company needs an engagement with the consumer.
Like what? Like what are those emerging areas?
So for instance, when the car comes for servicing, and as he or she is using the car, just monitoring the health of the car and proactively sending notifications to the consumer when the car needs a change in brake oil or engine oil or whatever else. Even in terms of buying the spares, in terms of buying insurance every year, in terms of let's say making any modifications to the car in future, so on. So a consumer on an average will keep the car for at least 5 years, 7 years. And there are hundreds of touch points through which the company can stay in touch with the consumer. So far, I don't see OEMs investing in a platform which can provide all those touch points, automate them, and then use all of that data and information to keep the consumer not for his or her first car, but through that journey and probably for the future cars as well.
Okay.
So that is not happening. So that is the second part. The third part is the supply chain. Like if you look at the back end of the OEMs, the manufacturing and the supply chain, in the last 12 months itself, I have spoken to so many companies, be it the OEMs or even auto component players, who are willing to invest now in the back end on the technology and digital to make their operations a lot more efficient. So I would say this is how we should look at it. The fourth area which is seeing is mobility, which we haven't talked about in a big way, where now you can see most of the OEMs globally are actually willing to partner with the mobility players, because one thing they have already seen is the profit pool of this industry is shrinking. The way they used to make money by selling vehicles, they are not going to make money the same way in future. So they will have to expand beyond their boundary lines and start partnering with the mobility players, like the way BMW has launched their mobility services and Daimler has created a separate vertical on the mobility side. So these are the 3 or 4 big areas of investment I can see happening in coming years.
Okay, I want to just pick up on that and ask all 4 of you to comment on what large businesses, which perhaps are in some sort of a disadvantage when it comes to the way disruption has happened as far as technology is concerned. For an entrepreneur who's launched in this space, is doing some exciting, fantastic work. For a large business watching this interview, maybe to say, how do they keep pace with the changes that are happening? Do you necessarily collaborate? What should you be doing?
I think the way I see this moving forward, I think there'll be a lot of collaboration happening. So I don't think it'll be really competition, it'll be more collaboration.
Sure.
So you'll have large businesses doing 2 things. One is collaborating with the startups, the startup ecosystem. 2, they'll also be building incubation units within their setups, which we're already seeing happening in a bunch of OEMs, with a separate agenda completely, not governed by the mainline agenda. But that's where it goes wrong completely if it gets done. So those are 2 trends we are seeing. But I think it's only an opportunity for both the businesses. And we've seen this not only in the auto industry, across financial services, e-commerce, retail, the works where they are embracing this, because it's only another way of scaling a business in a far more strong exponential way. So we see that partnership. So competition versus collaboration is, I think, the theme that I would see picking up.
Very quickly, closing comments from you, Prasenjit, to talk about the entire funnel as far as the value add to consumers and companies. There are multiple steps at which companies and businesses like yourself can be involved in.
So, I mean, we'd love to see auto OEMs and the auto industry embrace digital, not as a marketing channel, but as a business prerogative. But I think that's super critical, because that's how the businesses are moving in. So look at it across the marketing funnel, right from creating awareness to consideration to purchase. Go beyond that also, which is the service piece we spoke about in detail, build loyalty. That's just not it. And also keep a relationship with the customer. So I think use it end to end. So we are seeing now some OEMs moving that direction, but I'd love to see this become a more widespread kind of phenomenon, because this is the way the future is. In fact, this is the way the present is, and it's only going to go faster and faster. And the sooner they come on board and we are there to partner with them, the better it is.
Okay, including dealers that Deepak was talking about.
I think the entire ecosystem, I think, should just get on there, because that's the way it is going to be, and it'll only work for them in a better way.
Sure.
Great. I would just endorse that view. I think one thing is sure, that digital will change the landscape of auto industry in the coming years. And as we talked about, across the value chain, not restricting to just the front end of the value chain, impacting suppliers, consumers, partners, and of course OEMs in the process. So I think I can see a lot of changes happening in the industry in coming years.
Okay, and that's always good news, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, those were the highlights of our panel discussion on the future of mobility in the country. Our contact details will come up in just a moment. So if you have any feedback on that format, do let us know. As we're winding down today's conversation, though, I want to talk about the fact that we here at the Leaders of Tomorrow have been India's largest entrepreneurship platform over the past many years, bringing to you the most innovative stories of startups and small businesses all over the country.
This year, we're very excited to bring you an in-depth fact capsule in association with our knowledge partner AUTOMOTIVE, the most trusted platform when it comes to analyzing not just geographical market and industrial trends, but also providing in-depth insights as far as startups are concerned, their trends, as well as the future evaluation. This weekly capsule will capture all the information that you need to know about the top 5 startups in the country right now, who the biggest investors are, in which geography of the country, which sectors are the most interesting when it comes to where the money is going, what startup growth looks like in various cities, and a weekly snapshot of all the startup action that you need to know. This week, to kick off the action, we're bringing to you the AUTOMOTIVE India 100 Index, which covers the largest companies based on their benchmark valuation, a proprietary metric presented to you by AUTOMOTIVE, offering a comprehensive outlook on the startup market in the country. The AUTOMOTIVE India 100 is a market capitalization weighted method based on the benchmark valuations of the companies in the index. These startups are closely evaluated and rated by AUTOMOTIVE. Here are the top 5 gainers of the past week. This data is plotted as of October 16th, 2019. Take a look.
First on the list is Mumbai-based finance startup Mintifi showed an increased return of 48.33%. New Delhi-based finance startup ClearTax is the second company on our list and showed an increase of 2.74%. Social media startup Hotstar, based in India's financial hub, showed an increase of 0.34%. Let's now take a look at the last 2 startups on our list. First is a Mumbai-based finance industry startup, Small Business FinCredit, which showed an increase of 0.30%. And finally, Mumbai-based energy industry startup, CleanMax Solar, showed an increase of 0.25%. That's a wrap-up of our AUTOMOTIVE India 100 Index for this week. We will continue to bring you the most in-depth content on the startup space week after week, right here on Leaders of Tomorrow.